Alright, welcome back. Today we're breaking down another episode of Black Mirror. This time it's Loch Henry. Now this episode starts off as a boring film about eggs, but then it slowly starts to turn into a brutal true crime documentary that ends up hitting way closer to home than we expected. In this video I'm going to talk about the exploitation of true crime documentaries, all the subtle Easter eggs and symbolism this episode incorporates, and most importantly, I'll explain the ending of this brutal episode. Loch Henry is set in beautiful Scotland. Similar to another episode I just covered, Crocodile, they really incorporate the location into this episode, but for a completely different reason. Here they are mocking documentaries and how they always use B-roll of mountains and streams to fill in the blanks when they don't have enough footage of their own to use. Black Mirror's creator Charlie Brooker jokes that every time he watches a documentary, he ends up wanting to take a vacation or holiday wherever they filmed at because there's always such beautiful scenery and landscapes. Anyway, let's dive into it. This episode begins with David and his girlfriend Pia driving through beautiful Loch Henry, a small town in Scotland, to visit his parents. They're kind of out in the middle of nowhere, but the scenery is gorgeous. They've been driving for a while and Pia is passed out on his shoulder when they arrive. Davis's mom Janet walks out, and if you recognize her, that's because she's played by Monica Dolan, who was also in Smithereens from season 5 as CS Linda Grace. She immediately has a standoffish vibe with her arms crossed in the doorway. She looks uneasy and says she was worried it took so long for them to get here. Davis explains he took the long way to show Pia the beautiful scenery, before introducing the two of them. Janet looks like she's seen a ghost, or maybe she's just never seen a black person in real life before. Either way, it gives a slightly old-timey racist vibe, whether intentionally or not. Then saying,
"Pretty wee thing you've captured,"
which is an interesting choice of words. Captured. Janet likes to say lots of interesting things that I'm going to point out in this episode. Janet and Pia compliment each other's accents, and Janet asks if she grew up in America or if she's originally from—
Jesus, Mum.
Yeah, I think we can confirm there's a little light racism in there. They go inside and Pia looks around, noticing a decorative red mask hanging on the wall near pictures of her late husband. Kenneth, or Kenny as Janet called him, was a police officer, and Mia comments he looks good in that cap, but Davis calls it creepy. At dinner we learn the reason behind the trip. They're staying with Janet 2 nights and then moving on to Rum. They met each other at film school in London, and came on this trip to shoot Davis and Pia's film. It's about a rare egg guardian angel guy, who Davis says is one of the last remaining holdouts against the commodification of nature. I mean, if that doesn't scream award-winning documentary, I don't know what does. And Janet seems just as confused as the rest of us. So Pia helps explain that egg theft is illegal, but the local cops don't care, so this guy acts like a vigilante, then deciding to throw in the comment that if the thieves looked like her, maybe the cops would do something about it. But that cop comment kinda rubs Janet the wrong way, and she defends them, saying they're probably just overworked. It's a really demanding job.
as your dad knew.
She clearly knows because her late husband Kenny was a cop. Probably something Davis should have briefed Pia on ahead of time. Pia blames herself for not putting 2 and 2 together after seeing that picture of Kenny in the uniform, and is convinced Janet hates her now. Davis assures her she doesn't hate her, she's just really sensitive about his dad because she misses him a lot. Pia says, well, he must miss him too, right?
In theory, sort of do.
But his dad died when he was 8, so he never really knew him. All he's ever really been is just photographs. He was extremely sick when he died and required a lot of help, so it really drained his mom. Pia cuddles up closer to him and realizes all this talk wasn't just hard on Davis. It made something else hard too. She looks over and sees an old camcorder across the room, but picks it up to discover there's no tape inside, wishing she could record the dirty little deed they're about to do. But that doesn't stop her. She gives the camera to Davis and tells him to watch as she plays some sensual mouth music on his skin flute. Oh, come on, that's not what the camera is for. Meanwhile, Janet is wide awake in bed and she can hear everything going on in the other room. But she just looks over at the picture of Kenny on her nightstand, missing him. The next morning, Pia checks her phone to discover they have no service out here. And Janet definitely doesn't have the internet, so she begins exploring while she waits for Davis to get ready. She discovers a bookshelf that has a few books and way more VHS tapes. And if you're not old enough to know what a VHS tape is, or you never owned one, comment down below so I can feel bad about being old. But these VHS tapes aren't just movies. There's something Kenny and Janet recorded on their own, labeled Bergerac, followed by a date. And there's a ton of them. Davis comes in and says it's an old detective show and Janet had a crush on the main character. She liked his bum, but Pia cuts him off saying she doesn't want to think about his mom getting wet.
Over some dude's butt.
And that's when Janet speaks up from behind them to confirm the fact.
Well, he did have a nice one.
Pia is embarrassed. Again. All she wants is for Janet to like her, and she just keeps finding ways to mess that up. Davis tells her they're going down to the lock, and being the good mother that she is, Janet offers them a thermos with some tea to take with them because it's gonna be cold. Pia puts her head on his chest, saying they should just leave now. Half joking, half completely serious. Davis takes her down to Loch Henry, and she's blown away by how beautiful it is out here. With landscape this gorgeous, it has to be a major tourist destination, right? So why are they the only ones here? Pia says it's weird for it to be this empty, but Davis just stands there silent, holding back because he clearly knows the answer, but he doesn't want to say it. They walk along a row of empty businesses. This place is a ghost town. They come across the only open establishment we've seen so far and go inside. It's called the Lochside Inn. It's completely empty, and judging by the look of the guy behind the counter, he enjoys scaring customers away more than making money. But he knows Davis, and angrily comes around the counter saying he shouldn't have come back, ordering him to leave before maniacally laughing and shaking hands. His name's Stuart and they grew up together. And Stuart is played by Daniel Portman, who you might recognize as Big Dick Podrick from Game of Thrones. He roasts Davis, asking him if he's going to tell him his pronouns and making fun of him for studying woke film theory, but follows it up by telling Pia that he's going to be polishing BAFTAs someday. Back before film school, Stuart made a model spaceship.
A spaceship?
For one of Davis's shorts, a Solaris tribute, and promised Stuart he could do special effects for him one day when he made it big. Then realizing how rude he's been, Davis introduces the two of them, saying that she was in his film class. Again, kind of presenting strange ownership over something that he shares with Pia. And Stuart calls him out saying he thinks they're going to name it after him someday. Pia jokes she thought they were going to name it after her. And Stuart says, completely serious, that would be a smart move.
What with fucking diversity and all that?
Before giving her a condescending little atta-girl pat on the shoulder. She shares a look with Davis, thinking the same thing I am right now. It's safe to say this is a super old-timey town with not much access to the outside world or outsiders, since no one visits. So they've just been passing down generational racism, and while they aren't doing it intentionally, it just shows that they're products of their environment, because I could hear those same exact words coming out of Janet's mouth. The three of them share some beers, and Stuart says they're barely staying open because it's so dead out here. His dad Richard comes down to get a beer, and Stuart stops Davis from saying hi, saying don't bother. He's really depressed from everything shutting down around here, and that's his 5th refill of the day. Pia speaks up,
I don't get it.
asking again why they aren't overrun with tourists out here. It's so beautiful it makes no sense being this dead. But this time she gets a swift answer from Stuart.
Because of Ian Adair.
Davis is looking at the floor. He didn't want to talk about this.
Who is Ian Adair?
And Stuart turns to Davis like, you didn't tell her? He tries to play it off, but when Pia asks a 3rd time in a row, Stuart gives him the floor to answer. Ian Adair was a quiet, easygoing, but not too bright kid who lived up the hill at a place called 5 Acres Farm with his mom and dad.
Turned out he tortured and killed people.
Stuart's not much for suspense building, but Davis insists to let him tell the entire story.
You pretend you don't know the murder stuff yet.
Davis continues, telling Pia they used to be a hot spot for tourists, but back in 1997, a young couple visited on their honeymoon. They stayed there for a week, met tons of locals, and even drank a few nights at Stuart's dad's bar. But when the cleaner came to get their cottage ready for the next guests, all their stuff was still there. Clothes, car, everything. But no sign of them. Davis's dad Kenny, being a cop, went around knocking on doors and asking questions, but it's like they had just vanished. It became a huge news story. A frenzy of journalists and tabloids came to town to report on it, but a few weeks later Princess Diana died, and that stole all the headlines. But then one night when Ian was drinking here, he was a regular who always sat in the same chair. He drank way more than usual. Then he pointed out the missing persons poster and made weird comments about the girl and Stuart's dad. Richard kicked him out, and Ian threatened to come back and shoot up the place. Knowing Ian has a gun, Richard asks Kenny to go up and talk to him to make sure everything's okay. Kenny goes to check on him, and of course it's raining outside. He knocks on the door but doesn't get an answer. Then as he's walking back to his patrol car, Ian shoots him in the shoulder from the upstairs window. He crawls to his car, calls for backup, and hears 3 consecutive gunshots from inside the house, followed by silence. Ian shot his mom, his dad, and then himself.
Total wipeout. Farmicide.
Black Mirror loves bad guy murderers named Ian. Makes you wonder if Charlie Brooker holds a grudge against someone named Ian. When backup arrives, they go inside and discover a hidden door behind the wardrobe leading to an old underground bunker.
Oh, God.
Pia is on the edge of her seat. She's loving this story. Inside, they find a torture room with weapons, tools, and sex toys. He has been abducting and torturing people for weeks at a time, then burying their bodies in a nearby field. It wasn't just the missing honeymoon couple either. There was a total of 8 victims. The other 6 had just been chalked up to the dangerous countryside, saying that people easily got lost or drowned if they weren't familiar with the area. But no one was paying close enough attention to notice all the missing people piling up. But then when a visiting tourist couple goes missing on their honeymoon, the press eats that shit up. So, long story longer, that's what killed tourism around here. Pia asks Davis about his dad and if he recovered, but while he was being treated in the hospital, he got MRSA, and that slowly killed him. So in Janet's eyes, Ian Adair also killed Kenny.
You bastard!
Now that's a heavy story, so Stuart goes to get them 3 more beers. Pia takes Davis's hand, looks him in the eyes.
Can we go see where it happened?
Davis can't believe his ears. Why would she want to go visit such a horrible place that's gonna do nothing but remind him of his dead dad? But these damn true crime girlies love their murder porn. He takes her out to the boarded up house and she looks on in awe.
That's perfect. You don't see it?
Perfect for what? She asks if they can get inside, with Davis asking why on earth would she want to do that. She tells him this is what their, notice she didn't slip up and say her, this is what their film should be about.
All of this.
A Hannibal Lecter type guy operating a death den in a quaint little village. It's a real story. But Davis can't believe what he's hearing.
Are you serious?
He says they're meeting the egg guy on Wednesday. They can't just cancel on him. He's super busy guarding eggs from egg nappers. But Pia says fuck those eggs. She never really liked the egg idea in the first place.
Come on.
But she loves this. A true crime film about Ian Adair. She thinks she can even secure funding. Davis says it's not a mystery though. Nobody's gonna care. But Pia is sold, saying the details are so awful, it makes the story
Irresistible.
Davis isn't buying it and begins to walk off when Pia says if he's not gonna make it,
I will.
he stops in his tracks, reminding her that Ian Adair killed his dad. That's real.
He died, Pia.
It's not just content to be exploited, and it would tear his mom apart. But she counters by saying they can use it to make her point, that she was a victim too. Davis is disgusted with what he's hearing and just goes back to the car. At dinner that night, Pia compliments Janet's cooking after not eating much of it. Janet asks if she didn't like it, but Pia lies and says she's just watching her carbs. Clearly insulted, Janet takes her plate to the kitchen, and that's when Pia decides it's the perfect time to continue pitching her film idea to Davis, saying they'll do it justice and it'll look professional. I don't think the quality of it was ever his concern, but good to know. They go back to the Lochside Inn. Pia tells Stuart about their idea and he loves it, saying it'll bring tourists back. He references that Netflix thing about the guy who killed women.
Maybe narrow that down.
They're releasing 5 of those a week. The amount of murder porn being produced these days is crazy. Stuart says half of the documentary was just scenery, forests and mountains.
Fucking waterfalls.
It was like a brochure. His cousin even booked a holiday there after watching it. And when he got there, it was packed. That's exactly what they need here. And this film could do that for him.
I've even got a drone you can use.
Davis finally says okay, and Stuart brings down his mom's curiosity box. She was obsessed with the case and kept all kinds of newspaper articles and news reports recorded on VHS tapes, saying that when one of your regulars turns out to be a serial killer, you end up wanting to keep a souvenir. Pia asks if they can borrow all of this.
Or she won't give a fuck, she's been dead for 4 years.
That night they find Janet's old VCR and hook it up to their laptop so they can digitally capture all the old news footage. But there's already a tape in it. They press play and it's one of Janet's mini Bergerac videos. They pull it out and start capturing the tapes they got from Stuart. It's really good quality, old footage, very clear for the time. Even Stuart's dad Richard was interviewed. Back at the Lochside Inn, Richard tells Stuart he should have asked before giving all that stuff to them. No one should be making movies about that. That's when Davis and Pia show up with all their camera gear, ready to start day 1 of their new film. But first things first, the most important part of any true crime film: scenic drone shots. Then we get a way too long montage of the entire filmmaking process. Shooting, logging footage, editing, and they're doing it all together. It's so sweet. But while we're here, let's take a quick second to appreciate Davis's laptop stickers. What do we got here? We got Waldo, Archangel, White Bear, Tuckersoft, USS Callister, and the Shining Carpet. I'm not sure what any of that means, but look at it. During Stuart's interview, Richard walks down the stairs and overhears what he's talking about.
Fucking horrible.
They hear a loud noise and someone groan in pain. Richard fell down the stairs and calls Stuart a parasite when he tries to help him up, saying he shouldn't be digging around and pulling this back up. He then screams at Davis, asking why he's doing it. For an award, a pat on the back, Davis is speechless and super uncomfortable, but Stuart tells him to ignore him, and Davis calls an ambulance. Later on, they're logging Stuart's interview when Janet comes in. She asks Pia if she eats meat because she wants to make a shepherd's pie. Pia says yes, but Janet looks extremely uneasy and just stands there quietly for a moment, eyeing their computer screen and Stuart. Recognizing him as Richard's son, she asks what they're working on.
Doing a documentary, eating a dare, and all that.
They want to talk about everything that happened. She starts shaking and says they need to explain what happened to Kenny.
People should know.
Everyone should know.
My Kenny died because of that man.
She's so angry it's showing physical symptoms. She absolutely hates this man for what he did to their family. And if he was still alive,
I'd wring his neck myself.
she says they were happy before he broke it all. He's such a stupid man, he ruined everything.
Just the waste of it.
Which is a really strange way to talk about the death of your husband. She's still shaking in anger, but reels it back in.
I'm sorry.
It's okay, Mum.
Obviously, if your husband gets murdered, it's normal to have a little bit of residual anger left over, no matter how long ago it was. She offers her help if there's anything they need, and 2 seconds later, she's being wired for sound and interviewed. Davis tells her to relax and just talk openly about the case, but she's a little nervous, saying it's been years since she's been in front of any kind of camera. Last time was that old one Kenny had.
Your dad never had all this stuff.
Davis says he wasn't filming for broadcast, and she drops the gem.
Can you imagine?
With an excitedly dreamy look in her eye. She laughs and cracks a smile just thinking about it. Pia and Davis bring their film to one of Pia's contacts at Historic Productions, who initially isn't interested. They do more classy films, like The Callow Years, about the pig fucker from the National Anthem episode. But when Davis mentions his dad being a victim, she says they should definitely explore that personal angle.
That's important to me as a son.
But they need something new to present about the case that's never been heard before. That's when Pia lies and says they have access to the house and the dungeon where all the torturing took place. They suit up with Stuart and break into the house. He asks why they're shooting on such an old camera, and Davis says it's the same camera they used for forensic videos back then. It gives it a cool analog horror feel.
Proper Blair Witch.
They break in through a window, and Pia can't get the camera to record. Probably should have tested that before breaking and entering. But this is how we learn. And of course, it's a Bergerac tape, and it has the button punched on the top of it to prevent it from being recorded over. Janet and her Bergerac. She loves that guy's butt. Davis uses tape to cover it, and they're good to go. Stuart found the secret door and they head downstairs. The basement is completely empty after the police cleared everything out, but Stuart had a plan for that. He brought lemon juice and fake blood to stage the scene, because lemon juice shows up under a black light looking like bodily fluids. He squirts a little bit to show them how it works, but when he turns on the black light, there's remnants of blood and bodily fluid covering everything. The walls, the ceiling, the floor. Whatever happened in here was horrific.
Don't think we need the lemon juice.
They're all speechless. It just hit them how real this is. They came in here with no respect for the case, ready to lie and exploit his family's pain for potential fame, and they just got bitch slapped with gallons of reality. All of a sudden, it's very real. Pia, of course, is the first to speak up, not acknowledging anything, but just saying,
All right, let's get to work.
They finish and leave together in the van. Davis and Pia are creeped out, and Stuart laughs it off. Just like Cooper in Playtest, he uses humor as his defense mechanism when he's really scared, joking that that house and that fluid-covered dungeon could be used to draw tourists in. That's when they make up their own rendition of the song In the Navy
In the dungeon.
and make jokes about the horrific crimes committed. not taking anything serious, even after what they just saw. And as soon as Davis joins in singing, he comes around a blind corner too fast, and they crash head-on with a tractor. In the hospital, Davis apologizes to Pia for the accident. He's a little banged up with a neck brace and a concussion, but otherwise he's fine, and somehow everyone else is okay too. Not sure how that happens, but Enterprise had to have sponsored this episode because there's no way all three of them are walking away from something like that. They must have the safest vans on the planet. Stuart visits his dad Richard, who's in the same hospital from his fall, but he looks really uneasy while Stuart talks to him. Janet gives Pia and Stuart a ride home, but Davis has to stay behind for the night due to his concussion. If you didn't know, you're not supposed to sleep when you get a concussion, because you might not wake back up. Richard watches them walk out from his room across the hall. He's clearly got something bothering him. Back at home, Janet tells Pia she'll cook the shepherd's pie, but Pia tries to get out of a one-on-one dinner by saying she has a lot of work to do. But Janet insists, you have to eat. Now I think Janet really likes Pia, but she's just extremely old-fashioned and it comes off kind of negatively. At the end of the day, I think she is a good mom and she just wants to try and help any way that she can.
Thank you.
Looking around and realizing how alone she actually is out here in the middle of nowhere before going inside. Janet's listening to music and preparing dinner while Pia captures the tape from the house onto her laptop. She gets up to stretch her back, and I know from experience, too much consecutive time editing and your upper middle back starts to get a little sore. Been there, done that. Back at the hospital, Davis is killing time by playing Mario Kart on his phone when Richard sneaks into his room. He's been trying to stop this film from happening since he first found out about it, and now's his chance to personally put a stop to it. We don't know why exactly, but it definitely seems like he's involved somehow, or at least knows something that he's not speaking up about. He sits down on Davis's bed, and Davis is terrified. Last time he saw this guy, he was screaming at him. He tells Davis again, he has to stop this film. But this time, he's completely calm. Richard says he doesn't have any proof, but he thinks he's always known. Back at home while Pia is stretching, the footage they shot ends, with the Bergerac episode they taped over coming on after it. But she's in the middle of a really good stretch and doesn't get up to stop it. And that's when something else recorded after the Bergerac episode turns on. It's the same basement they were just in. And it's Ian Adair on screen, laughing menacingly, saying they're on day 9 of torturing the couple they have tied up. And it's the honeymoon couple, Simon and Dawn Chalice. Ian takes the camera and turns it to the man who was originally holding it, revealed to be none other than Davis's dad Kenny, in his police uniform, with a huge smile on his face, saying their guests are still delighted to be here. He goes over to the scared, tied-up couple and says they've got a big treat in store for them today. The mistress is gonna have some fun with them. And the whole time he's been talking, Ian is just taunting them with the camera in their faces. Pia can't believe what she's watching. They were literally just in that same basement. And that's when Kenny yells for Janet to come in and turns on some entrance music for her. It's Davis's mom, much younger, and she puts on the same red mask that Pia saw hanging on the wall earlier. She's dressed in a nurse's outfit, wielding a power drill, which I think is a reference to Dr. Peter Dawson from the Black Museum episode. He was a doctor who used a drill on a homeless man and it made him feel so good it killed him. Or it could be Baxter from White Bear. Either way, this show loves to use tools as weapons. Janet dances over to the couple tied up on the couch. It's a performance for her. She's having the time of her life. It's like she's a completely different person. She's so lively. Pia is speechless, but she doesn't even have a second to take all of this in before Janet comes in behind her, telling her dinner's ready.
Shepherd's pie.
She can't hide it. She's staring at Janet like she's a monster.
Right.
And Janet is just standing there smiling, ready to feed her. Janet walks out, and Pia has a second to try and gather her thoughts before sitting down to eat dinner by herself with a serial killer. And what do you know? As soon as she sits down, she sees the red mask from the video, displayed on the wall next to the pictures of Kenny like it's a happy memory of hers. Because it is. But Pia forgot she had seen the mask earlier, so this totally fucks her up and she can't stop staring at it. And obviously if someone is staring at something over your shoulder, you're bound to look and see what it is. And Janet realizes it's her mask.
Ken gave me that. We had such fun together.
With a crazy ass smile on her face. Suddenly all the weird comments she made earlier make way more sense. How she hadn't been in front of a camera for years. Last time it was Ken's old video camera. And could you imagine if he was shooting for broadcast? Suddenly that scene hits way different. She talks about these memories like they were the happiest time of her life. When Davis told her about their new film, she goes off on an angry tirade about how Ian messed everything up. They were happy before he ruined it by getting drunk and running his mouth in public. She resents him for ruining the good thing they had going, not just for indirectly killing Kenny.
You faggot!
And when Davis asked if she wanted to be in the film, she jumped at the opportunity. She was excited to show her work off to the world. She loved the idea of everyone seeing and talking about her crimes. Anyway, back to the story. Pia's at the dinner table and can't believe what she just heard. Janet asks if she's okay, and she rushes to the bathroom. She tries to call Davis, but of course there's no service here. They established that earlier. She doesn't know what to do, but she has to get out of here. She quietly opens the bathroom door, sneaking out, and turns around to see Janet standing directly behind her, asking if she's okay. Pia gasps and says she needs to step out to take a little walk and clear her head. Janet's no longer smiling and asks again if she's okay, and Pia rushes out. Janet knows something's wrong and heads upstairs to see what Pia was doing on the computer. Just as she walks into the bedroom, the Bergerac tape pops out of the VCR, and she realizes what happened. Pia knows her secret. Now, I've seen a lot of people online asking how she could be so lazy and sloppy with something as damning as videos of murders she committed. But I don't think she had very many guests, so there was no need to hide anything because who's she hiding it from? She had her murder mask displayed on the wall because it's a memory of the happiest time of her life. Also, in the back of her head, I think she wants to get caught eventually, so everyone can see her performance on tape, but on her own terms, and not right now. Pia's outside walking along the road trying to get cell service so she can call Davis and tell him everything. But that's when headlights appear behind her, and we all know it's Janet. She pulls up alongside her, telling her that she should get in before she catches a cold. But Pia just keeps trying to call Davis, but there's no service. And that's when the tone completely shifts, and both of these ladies stop pretending like they don't know what's going on. Janet screams at Pia to get in the car, but Pia quickly takes off sprinting in the opposite direction and hiding on the side of the road. Janet gets out of her car with a spotlight.
Come back now!
But when she turns her back, Pia gets up and makes her way down the hill. Janet yells she's not going to hurt her, but Pia's already down the hill approaching a creek. She carefully begins to cross the knee-deep water. She's looking down as she crosses, but the second she looks up and doesn't watch where she's stepping, she trips and smashes her face on a rock for not subscribing to my channel. Her body just floats away with the current. Now I can't help but find this scene hilarious. Yeah, the one where Pia dies. You know how I said earlier that almost all documentaries use a bunch of landscape shots to try and fill it out and make it longer? That's because there's usually not a ton of footage of the actual killing. So I think Pia being killed by the river is a joke on that. And the fact that rivers and mountains are always being featured in murder documentaries for no reason. Well, except for this one. This one kinda made sense, making it so ironic that Pia got killed by nature. So now they have plenty footage of the killer they can use in the documentary. That's great. Realizing Pia got away, Janet begins to panic, screaming no, fuck, and cunt over and over.
Fucking Vulcan!
But then she stops screaming and calms down, looking around. She knows what she has to do now, and she has to get the car back home. She pulls out a box of trophies and memories from her time as a serial killer. There's a picture of her and Kenny with Ian Adair. Kenny appears to be kissing Ian on the side of the head. There's the butterfly pin Don Chalice had, along with sunglasses, a lighter, a necklace, a diary, a scarf, and another book. She picks up the stack of pictures and flips through them, photos of their torture victims, and smiles fondly thinking of the memories they bring back. She goes to her bookshelf and grabs all her other Bergerac tapes. And while they only had 8 victims, there's way more tapes than that because they were torturing each of them for days at a time. So they went through a lot of tapes. She sets them on the kitchen table with her box of trophies. Her jaw is trembling as she puts them down. She begins to write a note, and we see the letters FOR before the camera cuts away. She's clearly asking for forgiveness for the horrible things she did. She puts the note on top of the box, still trembling. She grabs a rope and puts her red mask on as she looks into the mirror, staring at the version of herself that made her the happiest. She stands up, steps onto the stool, before kicking it out from under her feet and using the rope as a necklace. Months pass, and we see the finished trailer for the film Davis and Pia were working on. It's called Loch Henry, Truth Will Out, and Streamberry picked it up. The trailer is filled with a lot of footage we already saw, but now it's cut up quickly with tons of filters and overlays to make it all spooky and horror documentary style. It also has plenty of scenic drone shots to help fill it out. Shout out Stuart, including what might be the river Pia died in. In fact, if you look close, I think we can see her body. I'm just kidding. It's not there. But the most interesting part of this is we find out Richard's involvement. Why was it he wanted to stop the film so badly? Well, after Janet clocked out, he apparently had a change of heart and decided to give an interview for the film. He explains he got drunk one night with Janet and Ken, and they got to fooling around. And what he experienced with them that night made him feel like they had something to do with the Ian Adair killings. They were up to some freaky shit. It jumps into current news clips about Janet and Ken's involvement, and we get some cool Easter eggs scrolling along the bottom of the screen. First, we get Michael Smart unveils Met Police robot dog. Michael Smart being the evil politician from Demon 79 who creates the murder puppies from the episode Metalhead. Then we get US tourist found dead at Site 2 Gameu HQ, referring to Cooper from the episode Playtest. Just covered that one. Then we learn that Waldo just won his political campaign in Italy. And lastly, they opened up Hot Shots editions in Sydney. Hot Shots being the show from 15 Million Merits. Then we also get the truth about what happened with Ken and the night he confronted Ian. Ken didn't go to check on him. He went to kill Ian so he would stop running his mouth, and killed his family to stage it as a murder-suicide before shooting himself in the shoulder so it appeared like Ian had shot him. And how funny is it that Ken's dumbass shot himself and then got infected and died from the bullet wound? If that's not karma, I don't know what is. They even have a few shots of David crying spliced in so we know how much this hurts him. The way they use this trailer, and the entire episode in general, to shit on true crime documentaries is so funny and accurate. The trailer ends and we learn that it was playing at the BAFTA Awards, where it's going up against two other documentaries, one titled Euthanasia Inside Project Junipero, obviously referencing the digital afterlife San Junipero, and if we're being honest, I'm more interested in that one. Stuart's back at home at the Lochside Inn, watching the awards on TV, and the place is packed. Some people are even wearing red masks mimicking Janet's. Loch Henry wins the BAFTA, and Davis goes up on stage to accept the award with everyone else that was involved. Kate from Historic does the talking while Davis stands off to the side, in his own world, just staring at the ground. But she does dedicate the award to him and his late girlfriend Pia. Afterwards, when they're taking pictures on the red carpet, Davis appears to just be going through the motions. He's not there. And a really cool little touch here, the reflection of the red carpet on the mask makes it look like it's similar to his mom's. At the after party, a pretty woman approaches Davis, complimenting him on his film, and then Kate interrupts her to tell him they're developing a drama based on the story, insinuating she could be in the running to play Pia. But Davis has heard enough and goes back to his hotel room. He has a bottle of congratulatory champagne from Streamberry and pours himself a glass to drink alone. His phone rings and it's Stuart congratulating him on his award, and Davis doesn't even say anything. He just hangs up. He pulls a piece of paper from his pocket and unfolds it. It's the note from his mom that reads, "For your film." She offed herself and left out every piece of evidence she had for her son to use in his movie, at her own expense, because at the end of the day, she was a good mom who would do anything for her son. Now, we don't need to dive into her personal life, but as a mother, she did anything and everything she could to help him. With that being said, I think she also really got off on the fact that everyone was going to see those videos. But then you might ask, if she wanted the world to see it so bad, how come she didn't stick around so she could see the world's reaction when they saw it? And to answer that, I refer you back to the part where I said she's a good mom. By ending her story the way she did, she gave it an epic ending to make his film hit even harder than it would have if she was still alive. She did it to help make Davis's film better, because in the end, that's what was important to him. His film, remember? This recognition and award is all he ever wanted, and he finally got it, but it cost him everything. He has no one to celebrate with. He's alone, in his hotel room, trapped with an award he traded his life for. Had he not went down this rabbit hole and stuck with the egg vigilante, he would still have his girlfriend, his mom, and his obliviousness to the crimes his parents committed. Was it worth it? I feel like Richard's the only one who saw this as the outcome. He knew there was only one possible ending and it would ruin his life if he made the movie. That's why he tried so badly to stop him. He was actually trying to protect him. Fun fact time. This isn't the first time Monica Dolan, who played Janet, has been a serial killer on screen. In the movie Appropriate Adult, she played the real-life serial killer Rosemary West, who, with her husband Fred West, tortured and killed at least 10 young women in the 70s and 80s. And while Rosemary is still alive and in prison, Fred offed himself the same way Janet did. Now a fun fact within the fun fact. When Pia and Davis are pitching their documentary in the historic office, the lady says Ian Adair isn't as famous of a serial killer as
Ted Bundy or Fred West.
Look at that, an inception of fun facts. Let's go a little deeper. When Stuart mentions that Netflix documentary thing, he's referring to the 3-part series called A British Horror Story, which is about Fred and Rosemary West. Now, I don't think we need to dive too far into the fact that this episode was used to make fun of true crime documentaries and our obsession with murder porn. The way we exploit real-life tragedies, victims, and their survivors to make content out of it, and at the end of the day, everyone involved benefits from it except for the victims. No harm's undone, nothing's changed, random people use their story to propel their own careers, and we as consumers can't get enough of it. But this is Black Mirror, what do you expect? Of course we end the episode questioning our own morals and life choices, and I'm as guilty as anyone. I love true crime documentaries. I mean, hell, if you haven't heard of the True Crime Garage podcast and you're into true crime, I highly recommend checking it out because it's a really good one. Now there's a couple things I want to add before we wrap this up. A big theme in this episode is old media and the fetishization we have as consumers for it. We love that old grainy film look, even though everything we shoot nowadays is crystal clear. We saw the original footage Pia and Davis had to work with in their film, and it was clear. But in the edited trailer, they desaturate the color, throw all kinds of grainy old film filters over it, and just make it look old and spooky because that's what sells. And then they contrast that with super clear, super HD drone footage of landscapes, and that's how you make a documentary nowadays. It's pretty funny. And now that it's been pointed out to you, watch how often you see it. The last thing I want to talk about is the color red, and how this episode uses it to hide the twist in plain sight. Anytime you see red, we're getting closer to the truth. Similar to how we've seen it used in other episodes like Nosedive and USS Callister into Infinity, red represents the truth. Now this whole idea originally came from The Matrix, where Neo is offered a red pill to learn the truth, or a blue pill to stay ignorant. And that's why we love Black Mirror. Alright, so bear with me. Pia's wearing her red jacket when they arrive at Janet's and meet her for the first time, where she's standing in front of her house with a ton of red accents. Pia's also wearing red when she urges Davis to go to the house and switch their film topic to Ian Adair. Also in this scene, Davis is wearing blue to represent his willful ignorance to the story and refusal to explore it deeper. When Stuart gives them his mom's box, red shirt. When they film Janet's insane pre-interview lines, again, red jacket, and Janet's shirt has red flowers all over it. Speaking of Janet, we have her red mask hanging in the middle of the wall, representing the truth we're trying to uncover. At the end, Pia has a red sweater on when she discovers the truth about Janet, and at dinner, Janet's shirt is totally red. The tape that pops out of the VCR is a red label, and then when she freaks out about Pia getting away, she's even covered in red from the taillights of her car. And then at the very end, the red reflection on Davis's award, which just happens to be a mask, is the cherry on top of it all. Writing a good script is hard enough, but to incorporate all these small intricacies is impressive as hell. And it's exactly what we've come to love and expect from Black Mirror. And there you have it. That's my Loch Henry breakdown. Thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. If you made it this far and liked the video, please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this. I got a lot more coming. I'll see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.